So on one hand, we have people who love minimalism. And then there is maximalism with its bright colors, curated rooms. Let's get into the pros and cons of both and what it would be like to live with each other. You may be more familiar with minimalism, and a lot of people love minimalism for its focus on simplicity and functionality and intentional living. We prioritize experiences over possessions. I have a friend, she took her kids one year for Christmas to Vancouver in January. That was their present. I mean, I'm sure they got a couple of other things, but that was it. And I mean, that does sound like pretty fun. I don't know. I've actually always kind of found it kind of hard to entertain my kids in Vancouver, but I think that I love the idea of experience gifts over less stuff. We used to give our kids a ton of presents at Christmas, which was just silly. I don't know what we were trying to do or to prove to ourselves or the kids. But the thing is, we have reduced clutter when we focus on experiences, because I love to say, hey, how about instead of gifts for my birthday, let's go up to my favorite place on earth and go for a hike or something like that. We live with only what is necessary. And our mindset is value quality over quantity. And we seek peace and calm through a simpler life. However, some people, they fear that if you're a minimalist, you can only have beige and off-white for colors. And this is sometimes true. Maybe there's a sad beige kind of like stereotype for us minimalists, but I have a colorful picture behind me. Does that count for anything? On the other hand, there are the maximalists. They embrace abundance and personal expression and eclecticism. For me, this is about as abundant as it gets, and I'm going to be honest with you, I kind of want to declutter this whole thing. But they like to collect items that bring joy, and they have a diverse range of interests and hobbies. And quite often they value like richness and variety. They find inspiration in the complexity and the layers of life. And maybe some people who are a little anti-maximalist, they might be afraid that they're going to be trapped in a bit of a psychedelic tie-dye whirlpool of mismatched colors, textures, and schemes. Like, I get that, but I don't think it necessarily has to be that way. In my own home, I am more on the minimalist side of the spectrum, even though I'm not really talking about design. But let's get into that a little bit, because I do lean this way. So as far as color scheme goes, quite often with minimalism, there is a neutral color kind of scheme, quite often white, black, and shades of gray. But I do like to use some color, but I like to be intentional, as you saw on the bookshelf. I try not to clash, but honestly, I don't exactly think I'm a great decorator. Like, this is sort of like my homage area to my dad. And just like, I don't like things to be too crazy. And I think that that is the thing with minimalism, is that, like, yes, you could be a minimalist and have colorful things, but just not a lot of them. Part of the reason why I love minimalism is that I like that it is not overwhelming for the eye. I have ADHD. I also get really overstimulated really easily by like noise and visual things. That's not to say I don't love going to Disneyland or like a fair where there's like colors and lights, but I don't like to be there for long. And I think that in my home, if I'm going to use color, I like to, for the most part, have it kind of like grouped in clusters, so it's not like all at once. And for minimalist, as far as furniture goes, quite often it's functional. There are functional pieces, clean lines, minimal ornamentations. Phil agree? I say I disagree. And for decor, there's few decorative items, but those presents are meaningful and purposeful. Like I said, these things were my dad's, these were his cameras, this was his family's coffee grinder. It's meaningful to me. And our space use, we like open and uncluttered spaces when possible. Even if you have a small home, you can be a minimalist. And we like to have strategic storage solutions that keep our surfaces clear. So like, this is my storage furniture where I keep like my tea and a few things for other seasons or for hosting people, because like, of course, like, I'm going to have things to host people. I just don't want too many. And the visual impact, quite often it creates a sense of tranquility and order, a clean and organized look. I just like the calmness and serenity of it all. Meanwhile, those maximalists, they make me think of a fun boho kind of vibe. Color scheme. I'm thinking bold, vibrant colors and a mix of patterns. Furniture, diverse, eclectic pieces, often collected over time with a mix of different styles. And rich decoration, art, books, collections displayed prominently. It's almost like in my house, like I have like a bit of a maximalist corner, and that is this section. And the space use, quite often, maximalist, every space is utilized for displays. They layer the look with a sense of abundance. I have seen some really, really cool maximalist look. And in fact, I think like I almost was that before. You should have seen my Christmas trees before. There were so many different size balls like all over the place. It was crazy. And quite often, this maximalist look, it can have like a really amazing visual impact. It's lively and dynamic. There's an atmosphere with a sense of like personality and character. And I think that that is what makes a lot of people drawn to maximalism, is that it is a great way to express who you are. And I totally understand that. Like for me, in this house, like I love that I have like this, actually I made this, this mug, but my kids, they made like mugs, and I've got like an award my husband won and like other things. Like it's meaningful. So like when I do reduce this area, which I do want to do, I do need to keep a way to make it still like personable, because that's what I love about maximalism. The other thing I love about maximalism is just like a rich visual environment. And like I said, the personal expression is just off the charts. There's constant inspiration from the surroundings, but I think that you have to do it properly. And maximalists, they love using their stuff to communicate all about themselves. And I get that. Like Jane Austen, Harry Potter, Shaun of the Dead, garden culture. These are all things that I feel like I really identify with. And like, how can I show that about myself? Like to myself, I think like, I bet there are a ton of maximalists who don't even want people to come over. They just want to enjoy that for themselves. And I totally get that. Minimalists, on the other hand, there's less clutter. It's easier maintenance, there's less stress, there's more focus on the essential aspects of life. And speaking as a minimalist light person, as I like to call myself, which means like I'm not like extreme minimalist, but I keep what is important in my life. But I do have some personal things. However, I'm just waiting on a couple of people to leave. Maybe the one good guitar lover who was kind enough to let me use all of his guitars. I will get more into those people leaving in a minute, but I love how a minimalist home makes me feel. I don't want it to be impersonal and stark though, but I love a clean and tidy place where I can just think. I do want to talk about the challenges a little bit. So as far as maximalism goes, it can lead to clutter. And I think that it is more difficult to maintain, and it might feel overwhelming to some. And that's probably the main reason why, well, not the main, one of the probably two main reasons why I don't want to be a maximalist is like, number one, you need to curate it properly, I think, to make the space not feel overwhelming. And I think that it could very easily become cluttered. And I think that cleaning could be a challenge, which for me, I don't want. Like that just feels like that's the extra work that I'm trying to avoid as a minimalist. But as a minimalist, to a lot of people, it might just feel way too austere, way too impersonal. It might feel like it requires a lot of discipline to maintain this simplicity. And some people, they might feel downright depressed at the thought of a stark minimalist room. Meanwhile, I feel like a comfy little bunny who could just curl up in a ball, enjoy a cup of tea and a Jane Austen novel. And I am enjoying my children. I absolutely enjoy them more and more every day, now that they're teenagers in particular. I loved having little kids, but I feel like this was just like a stage of life that just made it was harder. This is really great. I love it. But the thing is, like, at some point, these kids are going to be leaving and their stuff is going with them. Let me tell you, for the most. If it was just my husband that was the maximalist, which he is not, that would be much more challenging. However, I think what would be great would be some kind of a compromise, like a beautiful thing in a relationship. You could have different zones and domains. So we have a Lego room, which is not at all very minimalist, but it is very compromise. And it's the same as like this bookshelf. This is like where we have stuff stored. And we will probably just relocate a lot of that to a different part of the house. And I think that that is a great way to compromise, is to have sections. Like I have people who I know who are police officers, and they have like got a bunch of stuff from it, and people like always give them gifts about these things. So like that's what their guest room is decorated as, but the rest of the house is not. And I think that's great, is you can have like zones. Like you could have like a totally minimalist house and then have a room full of all of your hobby stuff. I think that is a really fun compromise. And I know some people might be like, well, I can't decide. Do I want to go minimalist or embrace maximalism? And I totally get that. And how you can sort of like determine which style basically is like, what does your personality want? It can be a blend of elements of both styles if you want in your space. Like I said about like the one room, and then having like a very minimalized rest of the house, which I really, really like. But maybe you're like, no, I am going to embrace maximalism. So how are you going to do that? Are you going to like sort of like group like colors together, which would make it sort of more balanced? You could have every color in the rainbow in your house, but if you just sort of had things grouped where it wasn't like too overwhelming, that could be really, really nice. I would love to hear your thoughts all about minimalism and maximalism. Any houses you've seen? There are so many cool ones, as we've seen. And, you know, one of the things I realized is that my house was really stressing me out for a while, and I was really unhappy at home and had to make some changes. So check out this video here. Stay tidy and mighty. I hope something great happens for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.